Hi, I'm George with Amateur Logic TV and Ham Nation, and in the shack here today, we've got Ray Novak with us. Hello, Ray.
Greetings, everybody. Good to be here, George.
Boy, you had another toy in your bag.
Yes, sir. Brought a couple of them, and it's a shame Tommy's not with us.
It is.
So we're not going to do a smackdown on this one.
No, we're not, but let's see here. We do have two radios here, but it's not an official smackdown since we don't have Tommy.
That's true. That's true. And then I think it'd be a little bit of an unfair fight.
I think you've clearly got the better rig on your side over there. So, I think I'd have to sit this one out.
What we're showing is the new 2730. That's on the right-hand side, compared to its predecessor, the 2720.
And you can tell this one's from a previous generation because of the green backlit LCD. Now that's, still a lot of radios have that, but this one looks more like, I don't know, what do you call that? Is that a fluorescent or what is that new style called?
I call it a monochrome blue.
Okay. Yeah.
It does show up nicely in a vehicle, whether it's daylight or in darkness. But the 2720, the one on your side, George, that one could either be green or amber. But the interesting thing about the 2730 is the head is approximately the same size, maybe a little bit taller in height, but that LCD display is so much larger.
Yeah, you can see that it's wider and taller too. The numbers are a lot bigger there. That'll make it a little easier to see.
But like the 2720, it is your basic analog dual band 2-meter 440 mobile.
All right, so no digital stuff in this one, just a straight up analog radio.
Straight up analog radio.
Well, that's what some folks want.
But this one's going to create some rumors that Icom's getting away from doing D-Star, but there's such a market size out there for an analog type radio, we could not ignore it. We had to bring out something.
Yeah.
With the ID-5100 replacing the 2820, we did not have an analog-only mobile to offer. Yeah. So we had to bring this out as the 5100 has D-Star built in.
Yeah, true. So this one it does share a few things with the 5100, doesn't it?
It does. It has an optional Bluetooth board in it where you could have a headset paired to it. My fingers are crossed because the radio has CI5 control in it, that there will be an app to control it, but nothing solid at this time.
So other than that, these radios are very similar, aren't they?
They are very similar. They both have the capability of having the microphone plugged into the body or on the side of the head.
And that's pretty nice. I kind of like that,
Well, I'm one of those that I do not like it plugged into the head because you have the microphone cord that has the curls in it.
Yeah.
And if you were to grab it and it got hung on something, you tug too hard, there goes your display flying across the vehicle.
Well, maybe if it was magnet mount or something, but if you had it bolted down on a nice Panavice mount or something, I guess.
Yeah, or on this one, it's small enough that you could put on a visor.
Oh.
So you could have it up out of the way. You just look up at the visor, see what frequency that you're on or what you want to operate. And then on all of my vehicles, I have the microphone coming next to the seat next to me. I have an RJ45 that I just plug the microphone into, and it makes a real nice installation. The cord curls down between the seat and the center console, so it's out of the way and really not that difficult just to toss the mic underneath the seat, and you really see nothing in the car.
Yeah.
Well, what we're showing here, George, is two different repeaters.
Mm-hmm.
On the left-hand side, we're showing it with alphanumeric, Whiskey 5 ping pong ball. Yep. And then we're showing 443-700 on the right-hand side. And that's in memory channel 3, where this one's in memory channel 2.
So you can use either alpha or numeric.
Yes, you can. And the way the memory channels are set up is one large memory channel list.
So you don't have to have a group of them in VHF and a group in UHF. They can just all live in one group.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, that's pretty convenient. The older radios weren't that way.
Yeah, you had to really think and concentrate how you were going to do it. If all your VHF are on one side, what if you wanted to scan all of them? And I mean, you can have it in VFO mode on one side, scanning all your repeater lists on the other side. One thing a lot of people like to do with their radio is use it as not only as a ham transceiver, but also as a scanner. The 2730 allows you to scan memories as well as a VFO. One of the nice things when you go into VFO mode and you select scan is you can have it scan every frequency out there by band, your ham frequencies, or program scan edges for your upper and lower limit.
So this is a wideband receiver in here. It's not just amateur bands.
The radio is a wideband receiver, but not a DC to daylight receiver.
Yeah.
You've got your air band, you got your VHF ham, you got UHF ham, but the upper limit is not all the way up to 1 gig. And the reason why is a lot of the band plan has changed, so there's a lot of digital signals. And all you're going to get is noise. And
so you wouldn't want to scan everything anymore because of all the garbage that you'd hear.
Yes, sir. What we have here is for the tone scan. So if you're on the input of a repeater, you can scan for when somebody transmits with a tone, and it will then put it into the VFO.
So you'll know the PL tone then.
Yes, sir.
That could be handy.
It could. Especially if you're using it for emergency communications, you come up on a scene and do not have the tone. Or if you travel into a new area and the repeater directory that you're using, you can't access the repeater, but you hear others, good idea that the tone's changed and just not been documented.
Yeah. Oh, I guess that could happen. And then there's a lot of older repeaters that, you may have known about years ago that now have had to add tones because of congestion in one thing or another.
Yes. As we're looking at the scan, we're going to select all frequencies just to get an idea what kind of scan rate that we have.
Okay.
So we hit scan the second time.
That's pretty fast.
That moves along pretty good for it.
That's rolling off the megahertz like every second.
One of the things in a more modern radio, the menu system, we've still got to have a menu system because of the lack of buttons. The menu system has an absolute top and an absolute bottom.
Okay.
What's nice about that is for someone who is sight impaired, they know if they turn it so many times what step they're in. If it's an endless loop.
Oh, yeah, you get lost real quick.
Yes. So you can turn it 50 times and know you're all the way at the top.
Yeah.
And then you can scroll through each one. Now, if you notice across the bottom, you have a left button, a right button, one that looks like an enter, and then one that looks like a clear.
Yeah.
What that allows you to do is go into the next level where the setting is. And I can then dial what I want for the scan resume.
Okay.
If I put it on the wrong thing, I can hit clear to get out.
And it doesn't change it. You just came back to where you left off.
Yes. Or you can use the back button to get completely out.
Yeah. And this has weather band receiver in it as well?
Yes, sir, it does. It does have the weather alert, but we always see a message posted somewhere. Something must be wrong with my receiver. Every 5 seconds, it will leave where I am, or an incoming signal is muted every 5 seconds. Can guarantee you what is happening is that the weather alert is turned on.
Okay. So it has to leave just a blip for a second to go check it?
Yes, it looks to see if there's a long tone zero tone being sent out. It does not have SAME weather alert. It has the old traditional.
So you'd probably want to turn that off unless you were really wanting to check the weather.
That's true. Or if you're in a situation where you wanted to be able to monitor what's happening with the weather. On some of the more advanced radios, we have a quick menu and then the full-blown menu.
Right.
The quick menu is what we just went through that started out with tone until we get to the extended menu. The extended menu will then have in groups function, display, sounds, home channel setup, Bluetooth setup, and other settings that you can adjust.
Okay.
This one does not have the Bluetooth board in, so it'll give you a beep.
Okay. So there is an optional Bluetooth board you can add to this unit. And what can you do with Bluetooth once you've done that?
The Bluetooth on it is for some type of audio device, whether it's for our VS3 or a Bluetooth headset.
Okay.
And from the experience on the ID-5100, there's quite a few Bluetooth headsets out there, whether it's the type that you see the truckers using or motorcycle headsets. There's quite a few people that are saying that they're seeing compatibility across many different brands, not just the Icom device.
Okay. Now, what about remote control? You had mentioned Android earlier.
We're not really sure at this point. We're playing with a prototype here. We're hoping that we'll get FCC and the radio will be shipping soon. But there's CI5 controls in the radio, which
so it is possible. Yeah.
I'm hoping it's possible. Yeah. I do know through serial, usually you'll have the controls when CI5 is embedded in the radio. Others, you have things like info, what kind of info you want to come up. We're either looking at voltage or what version of the firmware. So under other, you got your info, clone, and then reset.
Okay.
Home channel, you can set the frequency. So it has a single button where you go back to your home channel in addition to your call channels.
Oh, home channel and call channel are not the same thing.
No, sir.
Huh.
Sounds, however you want the radio configured. Sub-band mute, you can turn it off or have it mute when activity on your main band comes in. So stop beep, band edge beep, your home channel beep. Not sure about key beep.
Yeah.
Beep levels. Your display settings for your contrast, your brightness, your backlighting. Functions, your squelch type. And that's for your control. You can have the squelch type off, or your standard squelch, or attenuation. Yeah. The attenuation is once you pass the 12 o'clock position, it starts applying an attenuator into the front end of the receiver.
Now, some other Icom radios have that too.
Yes. If you're in a downtown of a large city and you're having a lot of stations intermixing and causing the squelch to break and creating some havoc on the radio, all you got to do is attenuate it and you'll see that interference go away. Here's the squelch delay. You can either have it for short or for long. We also call it as a hang time. Dial, auto repeater set, remote mic, up-down mic control, push to talk, whether you want to just push it and hold, or each time you push the button, triggers it on and off. Push to talk lock, where if you just want it set as a scanner, no one can key up the radio. Busy channel lockout. So it's got a lot of your traditional features in a deeper menu.
Yeah.
And these are some of them that you very rarely go into and make regular changes, so it's best to have it set aside. There's a mic gain function on it to adjust the sensitivity of the mic. So more sensitive if you don't have a lot of background noise, less sensitive if you do. Talk a little bit closer to the mic at that point.
Yeah.
Auto power off. That way, if you forget and leave it on, instead of having a dead battery, the radio is smart enough to shut off. And then the CI5 control.
Now, not many dual banders have the CI5, do they?
No, they do not. Mainly our base stations will have the CI5 control, the 7100, that kind of radio will have for remote control operation. But this radio is going to have it, and that's going to open up a whole new area for remote receivers, remote operation. Who knows, it might even work with the RSBA1 software one day.
Huh. That could be interesting.
So I did see a question come in from a customer who asked if it had bands like any other radios. And seeing the B link, it doesn't mean blink, it means band link. So you can have certain services and certain functions in different banks, and then you can link them together.
Okay.
And it's when you get into that kind of complex programming on a radio, it's not easily done through the front panel. It's easier to use the software with it, and the software will be available at no charge for it.
Oh, that's nice. Now, I assume that this is a dual watch radio. In other words, you can have two bands, or you can have two receivers on the same band all going at the same time and hear everything.
You got to be careful with that term. Some people will use the term dual watch.
But actually, it's one receiver scanning between two.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you look at the 5100, we say we have dual watch and D-Star, where it's sitting there looking at both. If your subband comes up, it'll decode D-Star. But if your main band, which is your priority one, comes up with a D-Star signal, it will switch automatically to the main band.
Yeah.
This has dual receive. So you're able to listen to two different receivers, and you can go what we call VV or UU, VHF, VHF, or UHF, UHF, or VU, one VHF, one UHF.
Okay. Now, this radio does FM and FM narrow both.
Yes, it does.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
FM is your traditional, pretty much what we do in amateur radio repeaters. Now, there are some areas, because of the congestion that they have, they've decided to change their band plan a little bit, put the FM repeaters a little bit closer, but going with the commercial two-way standard with a narrower deviation and a narrower channel use.
Yeah.
With the 2730, there's different mounting configurations, not one size fits all. A lot of people we see just use Velcro to mount it. Some will want to see the head of the radio mounted on the body of the radio. Mm-hmm. There's different ways of doing it, but which way to configure it and package has been a real nightmare to try to figure out. We do have a couple of mounting solutions that you're able to choose from. One is the MBA4, which is going to be a bracket that screws onto the head, so you can snap it on to the head of the body.
Okay, and that's just a single-piece radio then?
That will make it a single-piece radio. It will be nice to have this configuration. If you have a power supply, you can mount the body in. Mm-hmm. The speaker's off the top of the body, or you have on the back of an external speaker. You can have both bands out of one or two separate speakers. And I've seen people put it in the cars with two separate speakers. That way you know which band it is without having to look for spatial listening. But that's one configuration. Another configuration will be the magnets that we introduced with the 2820. The bolt pattern on the back of the head for the magnets, as well as this bracket, are exactly the same.
Okay. So I'm looking here at the radio, and there's two of everything on it. It is actually two receivers, a volume and a squelch, and a VFO for each side on here. So, you know, you're getting two receivers, and rather than just have the squelch as a ring here around the volume control, it's a separate squelch button there.
As you're driving down the road, you easily know where the layout is for your volume, your squelch, and your tuning dial.
Yeah. Well, this is mighty impressive looking radio. You know, Icom has focused a lot on digital in recent years, D-Star, and you've really, innovated quite a bit there, but it looks like you haven't given up on analog at all.
No, we really haven't. The analog has always been important to us. That's why we've made sure that we had an analog radio at a fair price, and it had an upgrade path for D-Star. This one is just analog only.
Okay, so for analog only, I would say it looked like traditionally what I would say is maybe it's going to have a top-of-the-line price on it.
It's going to have a good price on it that people will say, wow, that's a lot of bang for the buck.
We'll welcome you back anytime you want to bring new radios in.
Glad to be here. Sorry that Tommy wasn't here to have fun with us.
Yeah. All right, 73.
Thank you, everybody.